support.
The maestro, please!
You know, with the amount we've actually talked about the album on Record Rundown, you'd think I would have gotten to this one sooner. Regardless, today we're finally looking at Bad Guy by Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish Pirate Baird O'Connell, and yes, that is her real name, is an American artist who's recently received a lot of attention, most attributed to her non-traditional image for a young pop idol. She has had hits off of her debut EP.
You really know how to make me cry when you give me those ocean eyes. I'm scared.
And with her quick rise to stardom, she has produced some other hits as well, working with other popular artists.
Isn't it lovely? All alone, heart made of glass, my mind of stone.
Background.
Bad Guy was originally released on March 29th and charted the following month at number 7. The song gained even more attention and has since risen to number 2, where it currently stands at the middle of July, because I'm recording this episode a little bit in advance. Maybe it beats Old Town Road, maybe it doesn't. Regardless, due to the popularity of the song, Billie Eilish has even released a remix of it with Justin Bieber.
Yeah, I'm a bad guy, ain't no holding back guy. Come off like a mad guy, always got your back guy. Yeah,
If the cover art wasn't any indicator, because it actually doesn't have any sort of single cover art, this is the 5th single off of her debut studio album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? The other 4 singles off the album in chronological order are
You should see me in a crowd. I'm gonna run, there's nothing to help. Watch me make 'em. And I'll call you when the party's over. Step on the glass, staple your tongue. Bury a friend, try to wake up.
and finally,
I just kinda wish you were gay.
Billie Eilish is giving writing credits, and the only other person who worked on the song for both writing and production was actually her brother, Phineas O'Connell. While Phineas O'Connell has worked with other artists outside the family, all of his pop hits have indeed been with his sister. Bad Guy is released jointly by Dark Room and Interscope.
Form.
Bad Guy is listed as an alternative dance and indie pop song, is about 3 minutes and a quarter long, is in 4/4 time, G minor, and is mostly at 135 beats per minute, but from the bridge to the end of the song, it drops to 60 beats per minute. The song opens with the bass figure and Billie Eilish singing along with it a little bit. She then gives us our first verse,
White shirt, now red, my bloody nose.
our first pre-chorus,
So you're a tough guy, like you really rough guy.
leading to the mostly instrumental chorus. We then get the second verse with her extremely layered vocals at this point,
Only I'll let you play the role.
followed by a reiteration of the pre-chorus.
I'm that bad type, make your mama sad type.
We then get the second chorus, which is not as instrumental as Billie Eilish is singing a bit more during it.
I'm only good at being bad.
Once we get to the bridge, the song changes completely. The texture is severely altered, the tempo is cut in half and then some, and Billie Eilish isn't really singing anymore, but I do hesitate to call it rapping, we'll just call it rhythmic talking.
I like when you get mad.
This then continues into the outro, in which we just hear the severely changed instrumental, along with Billie Eilish referring to herself as the bad guy. The song then abruptly ends on a very sharp exhale.
Bass.
The first figure the bass does revolves all around that low G, going up to the B flat above and the F below, but always returning to that G. The following subphrase continues that theme, although it only plays the E flat above the C it's now revolving around, before hitting the higher G and then dropping to D and its accompanying F sharp, before dropping to the D an octave lower. The only other thing the bass does before the bridge, anyway, is this little quick figure in the second verse, going G, D, C, B flat. Once we hit the bridge and for the remainder of the song, the bass just stays on that G, given it does pitch bend down every time it hits.
Synth.
The synth that only ever plays in the chorus is this very catchy figure that goes G, D, G, C sharp, D, C sharp, B flat, and repeats that for the first 4 bars. The following subphrase transposes that theme exactly up a perfect fourth, before then going to a D, F sharp, A, C figure outlying a D dominant 7 chord.
Backup vocals.
The only other quote-unquote instrument that happens in the song is during the second chorus in the form of her vocal edits. Billie Eilish is layered over herself first in a perfect fifth, before quickly switching to major thirds going up and down.
Intro.
The first we hear of Billie Eilish's singing is actually in the very beginning when she's singing along with the bass, at least in part. She sings it verbatim, but as she continues on, she does deviate from it slightly.
Verse.
Billie Eilish starts off by herself just on that B flat, but on the end of every subphrase she is joined by another layer of herself a third lower.
White shirt, now red, my bloody nose sleeping. You're on your tippy toes.
She then quickly forms complete harmonies with herself, revolving around a G minor triad while doing a quick D minor triad, before going to a D dominant 7 with a quick F major near the end.
Creeping around like no one knows. Think you're so criminal.
She then adds a fourth voice, so in addition to having complete triadic harmonies, we also have a repeated root on her highest voice. This part is really just focusing around G minor triads with the quick bend up to an A minor at the end of each subphrase.
Bruises on both my knees for you. Don't say thank you. Oh, please, I do.
And the final part of the first verse, that high voice moves from doubling the root to doubling the third, which is what she originally opened with singing, and she expands upon the harmonies she was doing in the previous phrase.
What I want when I'm wanting to, my soul, so cynical.
When the second verse comes around, she's again doing the triad harmonies with herself, but her highest voice is now doing the root, as opposed to earlier when her lowest voice was doing the root.
I like it when you take control, even if you know that you don't.
It's now in the second phrase of the verse that the highest voice is now once again doubling the third as opposed to the root.
Me, I'll let you play the role. I'll be your animal.
The following phrase then drops the highest voice and repeats the voicings that we heard in the first part of the second verse.
My mommy likes to sing along with me, but she won't sing this song.
She then repeats what she does, adding the fourth voice on the third, but near the end of the phrase, the highest voice does drop out.
If she reads all the lyrics, she'll pity the men I know.
Pre-chorus.
Billie Eilish begins the pre-chorus just by herself before adding a voice below her, holding that G throughout this phrase, with the occasional higher voice added on the D.
So you're a tough guy, like you really rough guy, just can't get enough guy, just always so puff guy.
In the following phrase, the voices become a bit more complex, doing some interesting melodic counterpoint with each other, as well as some of her layered voices being an octave higher where she's singing.
I'm that bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type.
Which then finally gives way to the iconic name drop of the song.
I'm the bad guy. Duh.
Chorus.
The only vocals that the first chorus has is a repetition of the name drop from the pre-chorus, including the pitch bend from that B flat down to the G. It, however, does not have the duh.
I'm the bad guy.
In the second chorus, which is twice as long as the first, she does add this melody as well, where she's singing with herself entirely in thirds, and that goes for the pitch bend upwards at the end as well.
I'm only good at being bad.
As I alluded to earlier, the bridge is where Billie Eilish abandons all melodic content entirely, instead choosing to focus on rhythm.
I like when you get mad. I guess I'm pretty glad that you're alone.
She then continues the duple feel she established in the previous phrase, although in the middle of it she switches to a triple feel.
You said she's scared of me? I mean, I don't see what she sees, but maybe it's 'cause I'm wearing your cologne.
Outro.
The final section of the song has Billie Eilish's vocal completely devoid of melodic content, as was established earlier, as well as extremely simplified rhythms, and of course those iconic sharp exhales. The following and final phrase just basically repeats that, although with an added 16th note in the beginning. I believe this song is emblematic of Billie Eilish's unique style, and it is that style that has garnered her so much attention and success, because she is so different from her slightly older counterparts, other female pop idols like Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, and Selena Gomez. Now, I'm not saying that her success is just because she's different. She clearly is a very talented musician. I mean, I don't want it to seem like I'm
a bad guy. Duh.
You know, it's a fun thing about that synth line that plays during the chorus, and before I say this, this was originally pointed out to me by Seth Everman's video. He's another music YouTuber and he's extremely funny, but that synth line is very, very close to the main melodic line in We Are Number One from Lazy Town.